President Trump said it was an honor to meet him. It's not a normal human being, it's the dictator.
He wanted my head cut off and was willing to pay $100,000.
There was a hole missing in me, and no matter how big the band was, I wasn't able to figure that out. So I dealt with it through heroin addiction.
Whoa. Just like this.
Thank you. This is the most control I've had over a basketball in 40 years.
President Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un failed to reach an agreement at their summit.
It was hoped the talks in Vietnam would lead to the rogue state's denuclearization.
In a hastily arranged press conference, President Trump blamed the breakdown on North Korea's insistence that all sanctions be lifted without the country committing to eliminate its nuclear arsenal.
We spent pretty much all day with Kim Jong-un. He's quite a guy and quite a character.
In Seoul's bus station, hopes were high for the Trump-Kim summit. But then the news of no deal came, further splitting opinion on this already divided peninsula.
I hoped the relationship could be better than now. I am very sad of that because the negotiation is not very good.
I agree with Trump because of the nuclear bomb, every of the country are really scared about the North Korea, and also we're South Korea, but we're really still afraid about the North Korea stuff. So I really agree with what Trump did.
This is now a critical time in the Korean Peninsula peace process. The US has pledged to keep on talking, but a failure to get sanctions lifted could mean Kim Jong-un's no longer listening.
What I was really worrying that President Trump would give way too much on this summit on behalf of North Korean regime. For example, like we talk about denuclearization in the past, but right now it's like they're talking about only freezing the nuclear capabilities. So I was so worried about that, in exchange of freezing the nuclear, capabilities and release the sanctions. I was really worrying, but I was so happy this morning seeing news that President Trump didn't sign any contract and he left the room. So I think he did one of the best things during his presidency period for this. From last year, old dictator, he appeared on a news media very suddenly. And then now from the Singapore summit and Hanoi summit, the world saw Kim Jong-un. And then from the Singapore summit, people kind of forgot about what he done to his own people in North Korea. His murder, he killed so many innocent North Korean people in a prison camp and in public execution, which is happening even today at this moment. And we know that how he killed his own uncle and his half-brother in exile, the assassination. But we forgot about that, and then he just put like a peace mask on his face, like as he wanted to bring the peace into the world. And then many people are saying, even in America, in South Korea, oh, he's a nice guy, or like he looked smart. He became kind of a celebrity right now. So this really makes me annoying, especially President Trump said it was an honor to meet him. I mean, that's just absurd to me. It's not a normal human being, it's the dictator.
Leaders around the world have this week called for restraint from Pakistan and India following an escalation of tensions in Kashmir. The conflict in the disputed region intensified after Pakistan said it had shot down 2 Indian warplanes and captured a pilot. It follows a suicide bombing in Indian-controlled Srinagar and a retaliatory attack on what was believed to be militants in the town of Balakot in Pakistan. Both countries have carried out airstrikes against each other, the first time in history that 2 nuclear-armed powers have done so. I spoke to Pakistan's High Commissioner to the UK, Mohammad Nafis Zakaria.
We have not only offered this thing to India, but we have also reached out to the UN. We have reached out to the countries, friendly countries like UK, to play their role in de-escalating the situation over there. Because we want peace. We want peace in the region so that people of the region could benefit from the economic potential of that region possesses.
Okay, it's an intractable problem, a very difficult problem, Kashmir. You mentioned Britain there. What would you want Britain or Foreign Secretary Jeremy Hunt to do about Kashmir?
This is an internationally recognized issue on the agenda of UN Security Council. We would like the UN Security Council resolutions on Kashmir to be implemented, and the issue should be resolved in accordance with the UN Security Council resolutions. And we see the role of United Kingdom being a permanent member of the UN Security Council, and also having historical linkages with both the countries, as well as their linkages, their relevance to the dispute of Kashmir.
One concern I think the world has is that Imran Khan himself was saying earlier that if this escalates, there's no way that he can control it, that the politicians can't control it. Is the truth here that it is the military, the army, that controls things in Pakistan?
I think we have had our democratic transition successfully, and I believe that all these statements are coming from the political leadership, and I think whatever they are saying is just very much in front of you. They are saying that India must be counseled to refrain from escalating tension, because we know the perils.
One of the world's most infamous criminals, El Chapo, is facing the prospect of dying in an American prison after being convicted and jailed for life for trafficking offences earlier this month. But bringing Joaquin Guzman to justice was not easy. The American authorities spent over 3 decades trying to catch the former drug cartel leader.
He had put a bounty on my head in 2007, and from that point on, it was extremely personal for me, and I made sure that the agents and policemen that we worked with kept him as a high priority for all these years.
I gather he was wanting your head on a plate, basically.
Yeah, I had arrived in El Paso, which was directly across the river from Juarez. He was embroiled in a battle with 2 other cartels there. And I gave an interview to a newspaper where I said, look, I was sent down here to dismantle his organization and to eventually hook him up and bring him to justice. And he certainly didn't like what I said. And then shortly after that, some of our Mexican friends notified us that they had come across information where he wanted my head cut off and was willing to pay $100,000, which wasn't a lot.
Right. No, but I mean, did that presumably deterred you, did it? Or did it sort of, make you even more keen to get him?
No, that really lit the fire in me and literally hundreds of heroic DEA agents that I worked with. So it was really, it was our calling from that point forward. And we knew it was going to be a tough job because of the situation in Mexico, but we never really gave up. And I sure like where he's sitting right now.
Right, and he's escaped once before, and I think you were about to retire when he escaped, and you went after him again. Now he is incarcerated. I mean, do you fear he might escape this time as well?
No, that's the furthest thing from my mind. The prison that he's most likely going to is the most high security prison in the U.S. system. And not only has no one escaped, there hasn't even been an attempt. So I think he's going to be in his little 3x5 cell for the rest of his life, and that suits me just fine.
During the 1991 Gulf War, Chris Ryan formed part of the 8-man team chosen for the famous Bravo 20 mission. He would be the only one to escape from Iraq after 3 of his colleagues were killed and 4 captured. He went on to write about his experiences in his book, The One That Got Away, and now has turned his hand to children's literature to try to champion literacy in disadvantaged areas. We caught up with him.
About 15 years ago, I would be doing an adult event, and a lot of fathers would bring their young sons in. And these children would ask, why don't you do a story for us? Because father won't let me read, your adult novel, for obvious reasons. And this is the 3rd series I've done. Now, it wasn't until I got into schools that actually it hit me, the problem we have with young teenage boys between the ages of 13 and 16 who actually have difficulty reading, and in some cases, they've never read a book before. And I feel quite strongly about this now. A young child at 16 leaving school, his chances of getting a decent job are minimal.
Because some of them want to join gangs, and the thing is, you were in the toughest gang.
Well, yes, the right gang. Now, the big difference being, when I joined the army, I ended up in an organisation that educated you, trained you, and then, you know, sent you all over the world. And it was a very disciplined gang, certainly within the SAS. The ethos there is failure is not an option, and they expect you to become top of the class. You know, whether it's mentally or physically, you have to really work. And I'm trying to pass this on to young boys. It's very difficult for them at the moment because they're hit with, you know, a lot of TV, a lot of computer games, and everything is fed to them. And to try and encourage a young boy to open up a book and get hooked on it, and not just one of my books, any type of book. I'll always say to a child who has difficulty reading, what is your favourite subject? Pick a book that basically goes through that subject, and you will be hooked on this.
So what is it about your book that you're hoping will suck them in and will give them that bug for reading?
Well, basically, I go back to when I was that age, and I think, what would I like to read? What would excite me? Obviously, I use my experiences of being in the SAS, watered down, and try and channel that in, you know, into the individual leading or becoming a team member and succeeding at whatever they do.
Now, the more eagle-eyed amongst you may well have noticed that I'm no longer in the studio, and there's a very good reason for that. Our next two guests from the Harlem Globetrotters require just a little bit more room. And in fact, I might actually have to loosen my tie, because there might be a little bit of physical effort about to come out here. Lovely to see both of you. You're going to try and take us through a little bit of a skill routine, I think. You're going to try and help me out, because, of course, you're coming here to the UK on tour with the Globetrotters in April. Yeah. Tell us what people can expect from the Harlem Globetrotters. There can't be many people who don't know of the team and its history. I mean, it's been going since the 1920s.
Yes, it has. You can expect a lot of entertainment, a lot of good basketball, a lot of tricks, a lot of high-flying dunks, just an overall good time.
So, someone's going to show me how to do something here, or at least have a go. Help me out here.
Definitely.
You'll notice that I didn't bring a net here, otherwise I would have been stuffing it, you know, swish, swish, boom, goes the dynamite.
I'll show you a few tricks you can do.
Go on.
If you want to just spin the ball right here a couple times, like this right here, you take my back, catch it. Go right here, you just throw it around the circle, kick it a few times.
Hold on. Keep it a little simple. Keep it a little simple for me.
Right. Come on this side of you right here, you see the feet. Just like that, right? Push it. Right there. He's got it just like that.
Thank you. This is the most control I've had over a basketball in 40 years' time. Thank you very much. So tell us just a little bit about the history of the Globetrotters. Where did it come from, and what's the purpose these days?
We started in 1926 in Chicago, Illinois. And
first game was January 7, 1927, and our finalists Abe Saperstein.
Abe Saperstein, yeah.
Our finalists were like Metal Lemon, Marcus Haynes, and they were the pioneers of it. So we're just trying to keep on the legacy that they got.
And most people think that because we have the name Harlem attached to our name, it's because we're from Harlem, but we're not. It's because back then, all of the African-American entertainers were from Harlem.
Yeah.
So it was only right to put that in front of the name.
In fact, you guys were telling me, is it Tennessee or, sorry?
I'm from Mississippi.
Mississippi.
Alabama.
Yeah,
you got the right reason, but no.
They are freezing themselves solid this morning. Right, I need to try some more. Okay, my three-point game isn't brilliant, so anything else, apart from just balancing. Show me this, wrapping it round my chest.
Okay, wrapping around your chest. So we can probably make it easy. You go, so I'll let you do this right here. We're going to go around the back twice, like that.
Yeah.
We're going to go through the legs like this.
Yeah.
We're going to stick the ball out like this. And just off the elbow.
Man, I know you can do that.
So,
round the back,
twice,
2 times,
between the legs.
2 legs.
Go die.
Yep. Stick the ball out, off the elbow.
Oh,
perfect. Look at that.
Now, the infamous rock stars of the 80s, who garnered as much attention for their bad behaviour as their music, and now a new biopic is set to tell their barely believable story. The Dirt follows the trials and tribulations of the iconic American rock group Motley Crue, from their formation to the height of their success and successes.
The fans, they're dying for some anarchy. So let's give it to them.
We lived it. We lived to actually regret a lot of it. And we've learned from it. And who we are in 2019 is not who we were at the time that the film was made. But we feel that with honest filmmaking, you have to leave it all in. You know, it doesn't matter if it's about prohibition or the colonial period and burning witches, you can't leave stuff out. And it was important for us to show because you show a band that came out of an era that was very vanilla in Los Angeles. There was new wave. Punk was a very powerful
Nothing vanilla about you guys, though, was there?
There was nothing vanilla about us.
Well, but that's one of the great things that Motley's allowed us to do as producers. The 60s, the Beatles glamorized acid. So did the Jefferson Airplane and Haight-Ashbury. And in the 60s and 70s, Keith Richards was a heroin addict. And these were kids who saw their heroes glamorize drugs. To be honest about that and show in the movie that nothing good happens from that and de-glamorize it, I think takes courage. And Motley allowed us to do that as producers.
You had big challenges with heroin, didn't you, particularly?
Yeah, it was really hard for me.
How did that manifest itself?
Well, my mom, my dad first left when I was 3, my mom at 6. I was raised by my grandparents, so we traveled a lot. So there was always sort of something missing as far as having a family. And when I started putting bands together in the late 70s, I started feeling a connection to something as more than just the music. It was this bond. And Motley Crue really was my first family. And there
you didn't necessarily behave particularly well towards your mum, did you?
No, we never were able to resolve our differences. And that's something that's, you know, I have to live with. So there was a hole missing in me, and no matter how big the band was, I wasn't able to figure that out. I was too young, I didn't have the experience, life experience, and so I dealt with it through heroin addiction. And then when I got clean and sober and went through therapy and rehab and, you know, wanted to be a better man. And now today I'm a father of 4. I have a young daughter on the way. I'm married.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm very, very excited about that.
Did you get to a stage with the band where you thought, these guys are just crazy, I can't have anything more to do with them?
Multiple times. That said, Nikki is a great partner and has always been able to lead this band. And whenever I told him I wanted to quit, he said, you can't. And I value the partnership that much.
What impression do you want people to come away with?
That you can learn from your lessons and that you can survive. And it's a family movie, not as in it's a family movie, it's a movie about a family. Dysfunctional at times, at the top of our game at times, selling out stadiums, and other times falling apart.
It's a very joyous occasion. People glad I won all over the world, especially in the People's Republic of Brooklyn, New York. So I'm happy, I'm here, celebrating.
Roger and Brian are so excited that the movie has been received the way it has, as am I. And to celebrate the film tonight was such an honor. I did have a little cameo in the movie, yes. I was the trucker tempting Freddie at the rest stop. So in the film and on stage with Queen, to this day, I like to think to myself, for Freddie, that perhaps I'm repping the queer spirit.
You didn't win this evening, we were rooting for you, but then...
I won. Please, believe me, I'm still winning.
But Olivia did.
Yes, Olivia Colman, yeah, absolutely superb. And her speech was classic Olivia Colman. It's hilarious. Make you love her even more.
Because you've kind of been on this experience together.
Yeah, and I worked with her on The Iron Lady, so we've known each other for some years, yeah. I was thrilled that she won. I think she's probably still crying. She has to stop.
Alfonso, I mean, best director, best foreign film, best cinematography.
I know, I mean, seeing him up there, it just filled my heart with joy. Yeah, I'm so happy.
What is he like as a boss? What is he like as a director?
Oh my God, he's amazing. What he did, it was just a blessing for actors. He really like made everything easy. He gave us all the tools so we could go into a deep, real life experience of acting.
I think it's been phenomenal, and it was very exciting to have 10 nominations. America's always a little bit unpredictable because they tend to sort of look after their own, perhaps I should say. Just like maybe at the BAFTAs we expect to be looked after there, and I think we did incredibly well, and the right person won.
I was just there to enjoy the night, but it was so good to see the guys win, and there's a lot of hard work that's obviously gone into it, and to see them receive that kind of recognition is really wonderful.
Come on, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. You stepped in at the last minute, and you know, you've been an integral part of saving this film, some people say.
Well, they're free to say that. I'm not going to argue with them. I was asked on the Thursday, and I started on the Monday, so it was quite a quick turnaround, and I shot about a month of the film, and then was there for the edit. So yes, but I mean, of course, it would be nice for me to acknowledge that, and people do acknowledge it, but really it's about what Rami achieved tonight and what that ensemble cast achieved tonight, really.
When I did the Oscars back in 2015 and I got nominated, I was honestly terrified. So every year I watch the awards understanding it really is one of the scariest stages in the world.
What do you think about Lady Gaga?
Oh, amazing, phenomenal, huge fan, well-deserved, beautiful performance. Everyone was incredible. Olivia's speech was the highlight of my whole night. I mean, it was the best speech of the night. It's the realest, most authentic thing I've heard. I mean, she's an angel. It was amazing.